The final Tokyo Joshi pod of 2025 is here. We'll talk the Merry Christmas show, which had another great preview tag, chat the upcoming year-end party, cover some major news we got this week. TJPW's US return is confirmed and incoming, and we'll look back on the year that TJPW had in 2025, a few top 5 lists. All that and more coming up on the Tokyo Joshi pod. Stay tuned. Hello to all you big children out there. Konnichiwa! And welcome to the Tokyo Joshi Pod, your weekly dose of everything TJPW. I'm your host, Andy Zyke, and I hope you all had a lovely Christmas holiday if you celebrate Christmas. This is going to be our final pod of 2025. I can't believe that 2025 is already over. It feels like we just started this pod a few months ago, which I guess technically it was just a few months ago, but you get the point. I can't believe that 2026 is already here. I don't think that the final pod of 2025 means anything different or special, but it does mark this big occasion as we move into 2026, which of course means the Itanyon show is literally just around the corner. I think we only have one more show to go before that one. This one will be probably another shorter episode, just given the holidays, the time spent with friends and family. Of course, I'm spending a lot of time with family and friends myself. I'm sure all of you listeners are as well. So I want to keep this one a little bit tighter than normal. But that said, TJPW dropped some absolutely major holiday news. We all got wonderful Christmas gifts, Hanukkah gifts, Kwanzaa gifts, whatever it is you celebrate. TJPW came prepared and ready this holiday season. We got some lovely news in the form of US announcements, Max Heart tag teams coming into the tournament, and of course, we had a very festive and important Merry Christmas show to talk about. We're going to dive into all of that. Plus, I have a couple of year-end lists that I wanted to chat through, just something fun, different I threw together to end out the year. So let's go ahead and dive right on in. I think with all of the news that we got, I don't want to bury the lead here. Just this morning, I'm recording this the morning of December 24th, Christmas Eve, and just this morning, TJPW announced the return to the United States. TJPW Texas Stampede has been announced. This is going to be TJPW's largest US tour in history. I think by that they just mean based on number of shows and perhaps like length of time they mean largest, but who knows? Maybe that also means in terms of talent, in terms of the shows that they put on. We'll have to see about that. This tour will contain 4 shows across Texas. They will be in Austin, Houston, and Dallas. So Houston and Dallas from 2025 are going to be coming back into play. And then TJPW is also going to be making a stop in Austin. And the curious thing, there's actually a couple of curious things about this. So these 4 shows are going to take place between March 17th and March 22nd of 2026. Austin will have 2 shows, and then I believe there's going to be 1 in Houston, 1 in Dallas. That would be the 4. And the 2 shows in Austin are going to be running alongside South by Southwest, the big like media, film, music, television, whatever festival that takes place in Austin every year. So that's really an interesting alignment that TJPW is doing. The other interesting thing about this is March 17th to March 22nd is only a week before the big Grand Princess show on March 29th of 2026. That's the Ryogoku Kokugikan show. So I wonder if that will have any sort of factors to it with who comes over from Japan before that big show. If we look back to, say, the Vegas shows from 2025 of this year around WrestleMania weekend, Stardom had a similar construct. The Vegas shows for Stardom were about a week before their very large April show, and we ended up not getting a lot of the top name talent. Now, I don't know if that's going to be happening here or not. I don't want to speculate on that. Obviously, I hope that we see the entire TJPW roster make their trek over here to the States, but all I'm saying is we'll just have to wait and see. It is worth noting that there have been no ticket information announced yet. There's no venues, there's no start times, matches, talent, whatever. This is purely just an announcement from TJPW, a Christmas gift, if it were, saying, hey, we are coming back to America. Get ready, carve out your calendars, book your flights, book your hotels. This is going to be a lot of fun. Really looking forward to Texas this year, March 17th to March 22. In addition to the America news, we also got some news for Japan as well. The first 4 teams for the Max Heart tournament have been announced. These were announced during the Merry Christmas event that we'll speak about in just a little bit. The 4 teams that have been confirmed, there's going to be 12 in total. The 4 that have been announced are Uber Eats, the current Princess Tag Team Champions. We're also going to see Daydream, Miyu Watanabe and Rika Tatsumi. So that's going to be a major powerhouse team, a very tough one to contend with. We're also going to see Daisy Monkey, Suzume and Arisu Endo, another very, very powerful team to contend with. And then the final team announced was Prism Greed, Haru Kazushiro, and Yuki Aino. So really, no matter how the January 4th tag team title match plays out between Uber Eats and Prism Greed, the tag team champions will be in this Max Heart tournament either way. These are some heavy hitters, to say the least. I'm really curious the other 8 teams that we'll see. I wonder if, we'll get like Miyu Yamashita and Kaya Toribami, who have been tagging together quite frequently, and they hold those IWA Japan setup tag titles. We know that Max the Impaler is going to be around during this tournament, so I wonder if they will team with, say, Pom Harajuku or Raku. Maybe we'll get a return of Pom Paler again, but quite the 4 initial teams to announce. This tournament is going to be big time this year from the sounds of these original 4 teams. This is going to kick off on Saturday, January 17th, and we'll dive into this. We'll do a full preview of this tournament on a future episode once we know the full field of competitors. Also hot off the presses this morning, a bit of interesting news. TJPW announced right after they made the Texas announcement, so they kind of buried this one, that Henri, the trainee who is set to make her debut on the Itanyon show, her match has actually been postponed. There's not a lot of details with it. It was a very short announcement. All that was mentioned was that they're going to be postponing Henri's debut match after, quote, after comprehensively assessing her condition. So I don't think this means that she is sick or hurt in any way. I think that this means they just don't think that she's ready to make her debut yet. And look, that's fine. I don't know if this is coming from the talent or from TJPW or from her trainers or whatever, but if someone's not ready, they're not ready yet. There is absolutely no harm in holding them off, debuting them a few months later. Yes, it's a little bit awkward that they had the press conference, they made the announcements, and people are looking forward to it. Mind you, I don't think anybody is buying tickets just to see Henri's debut match, except for maybe her friends and family, but I think that this is totally fine as an announcement. I think TJPW kind of wisely just quietly put it out after the Texas tour announcement just to not draw too much attention, but there is no word yet on if this has any sort of ramifications for Shion, the other trainee that is debuting, and then there is no word yet on what the match construct will look like. I think the easiest thing they'll do is maybe just a 3-way match, but we'll have to wait and see. We have about a week or so before this event, so we'll have to see what this match becomes. I think this was going to be the opening match, so we'll have to wait and see what this match turns into. But Henri, no longer on that January 4th Itanyon show. We also have a little bit of Grand Princess news as well. We now know how we're going to come about the main event for Grand Princess on the Saturday, January 10th show. This is the New Year party. TJPW announced that there will be a match. They didn't give any details on who's in the match, the type of match it's going to be, the number of people in the match, literally nothing. All they said was that there will be a match at this New Year party event, and this match is going to determine the Princess of Princess challenger for Grand Princess. So this could be an elimination, a gauntlet, a rumble, a singles match even. We truly have no idea, but a lot of stakes now being put towards this January 10th New Year's party event. It's worth mentioning that Ryu Mizunami, Aniki, has been confirmed for that event. J-Rod is supposed to be at that event as well, and Max the Impaler as well. Now, I don't know if any of those 3 competitors are hinting at the challenger for the Princess of Princess title. Ryu Mizunami won the Tokyo Princess Cup in years past and then went on to challenge, coincidentally enough, Miyu Watanabe, and was unsuccessful. Of course, J-Rod had just challenged a few, maybe weeks ago, a month ago or so. So I don't think either of those ladies will be the ones to challenge Miyu. Max, maybe. I don't know if Max has ever received a Princess of Princess title shot, but I'm not sure if Max is the best fit. As much as I love Max the Impaler and I love their work, I don't know if Max would be like the best fit for the main event of one of the biggest shows. I think there's some other names on the table that might make some sense, or you elevate like an in-house talent rather But we'll have to see. I think a match between Max and Miyu would be incredible, whether that ends up happening at Grand Princess or some other time. But I'll mark that one down for the wish list, right? But regardless, come January 10th, we will know the challenger, and I guess we'll also know the champion by then as well. But we will know what the main event will look like for Grand Princess 2-6. And then last but certainly not least, we have one more talent announcement for Grand Princess. TJPW has announced that Andreza, Giant Panda, will be making his return to TJPW at the Grand Princess event. Seeing Andreza wrestle is always an absolute delight. It is awesome that gimmick and character when he interacts with the TJPW women is so much fun. So this Grand Princess show just truly keeps getting bigger, more variety, a lot of competitors, a lot of stakes. So Grand Princess is shaping up to be an absolute all-timer. So a lot of news off the rip. I didn't expect to have this much news this holiday week or this show, so the news segment might be a little bit longer than I anticipated. But let's go ahead and jump into, now that we have the news out of the way, our event review of the week. Seino Merry Christmas took place on Sunday, December 21st from the Tokyo Tama Mirai Messe. Basically, it was like an exhibition hall. This show was live on Wrestle Universe. It's about 2.5 hours, so it's actually quite a lengthier show from TJPW. The attendance for this one was 327, which TJPW is announcing as a sellout. And looking back at some of the previous Merry Christmas shows, Merry Christmas events, this number, this 327 number, is actually pretty consistent with previous Christmas shows. They tend to pull around 300 to 400, somewhere in there. So this is right in line with that. TJPW has actually also run this venue in the past. The last time they were here, though, was all the way back in 2023 for Wrestle Princess 4, where they drew 868. Now, obviously, that number significantly higher than the 327 for this show, but remember, it's Wrestle Princess 4. It's one of their big 3 shows of the year, so naturally, that's going to have title matches and whatnot. It's going to draw in a much bigger crowd. But 327, when you look at previous Christmas shows, this is right in line with that. There was one absent competitor. Himawari was announced as absent just due to scheduling conflicts. I think it might have had to do with her stage play, her stage show that she was doing. Don't quote me on that, I'm not entirely sure, but that would be my hunch. This show actually started out, and this is on the Wrestle Universe broadcast, with a Princess of Princess title signing ceremony. So Suzume and Miyu come out and they sign the contract basically for their Itinyon title match that they have on the docket. Both of these competitors spoke very briefly. It was only about a 15 to 20 minute title signing ceremony or match signing ceremony. And Suzume basically just spoke about her aspirations of eventually becoming a leader within TJPW, her realization that she felt she was ready to challenge for the Princess of Princess title. She also mentioned that she hates the giant swing, which got a laugh from the crowd and a little bit of a surprise laugh from Miyu too. And Suzume mentioned that she needs to be very cautious because her and Miyu know each other so well. So a lot of her attacks and her offense and her repertoire is so well known from Miyu. So she has to be a little bit extra cautious as she heads into this match on January 4th. Miyu spoke about how her and Suzume are so close, sharing that love for TJPW. They're close in age, they're close in the time, the year that they debuted. I think they're also close just personally in terms of like being friends, having similar interests and whatnot. Miyu said that Suzume had called her a princess before anybody else that they were at. I think she said they were at Disney World or something, and she happened to call her a princess like 3 years before anybody else did. So of course, Miyu very excited about that. She said that she is very excited to see this mutual love that the two of them have for TJPW kind of come to a head here, come head to head. But all that being said, Miyu does intend to win. She intends to move on to Grand Princess 2-6, grow TJPW even more and more. She actually name dropped some venues, the Yokohama Budokan, the Tokyo Dome. This is like the first time we're hearing some of these words mentioned within TJPW. This is a very lofty goal. If this is truly what TJPW is aiming for, or the wrestlers are aiming for, hitting that Tokyo Dome, I mean, we're probably talking at least 3 to 5 years away, but my goodness, that would be exceptional. That'd be awesome. The main portion of this show opened up with Rise Shirai giving her opening remarks, the house rules. This was where we heard the announcement for the 4 Max Heart competitors, the Max Heart teams that are going to be taking place in that tournament. The Up Up Girls, of course, came out. They did perform one song, Kawatsuyo Challenger. So Kawatsuyo Challenger back in the mix for the Up Up Girls performances. So now you'll remember the construct of this entire show are 9 singles matches leading up to that ultimate preview tag. So we'll run through some of these single matches somewhat rapid fire. The opening contest was between Uda Takami and Chika Nanase. They've met a handful of times before, Chika with the 3-1 advantage. Of course, this is a rematch of the Next Gen Tournament Finals. This match was like a combination of Chika's power meeting Uda's speed. They actually made good use of the full time limit. Another thing to remember, all of these singles matches had 7-minute time limits. This match ultimately ends with Chika submitting Uda Takami with the elevated Inari Tori at 6 minutes and 55 seconds. So they went like right up to that 7-minute time limit. And afterwards, Chika was very cold blooded. She was staring into the camera. She was shouting, like, she knew the magnitude of this victory. And that's something to call out here. I think that's the biggest point of this singles match is Chika picks up another win over Uda Takami, who has had one heck of a year. So this like odd domination that Chika has over Uda seems to continue here, but huge win for Chika Nanase here over Uda Takami. The next match was a first-time singles match between Kira Summer and Raku. Raku entered wearing a Santa hat. She was carrying a gift with her. She was definitely in the Christmas spirit. She ends up giving Kira the sleep mask. That's the sheep, which she's still carrying around ever since her match with Ren from a few weeks ago. She gives the sleep mask to Kira, who ends up getting very tired, falls asleep. Raku then comes back into the ring, places the gift that she was carrying nearby Kira, tiptoes away, and then just screams as loud as possible for Kira to wake up. Kira wakes up and basically realizes, oh my goodness, Christmas came early. She goes to open up the gift, but of course this is all just a trap from Raku, who surprises her behind with a roll-up. After we get these Christmas festivities out of the way to start, is fairly back and forth from there. Raku actually ends up winning this with a Dr. Yellow at 5 minutes and 4 seconds, but Kira afterwards will end up stealing the Christmas gift, so Kira does get the last word. This was pretty fun just to see Kira flex some of her comedy chops. Kira is typically a pretty straightforward competitor, a more grounded, realistic competitor, and we don't see too much comedy from Kira, so nice to see her get a little bit creative. Next up was a singles match between Mihiro Kiryu and Shino Suzuki. This is a first-time meeting, and of course, Mihiro is the the DDT Ironman heavy middleweight champion, must say the full name, so naturally that title is on the line in this match. Shino was well aware of that. She tried to roll Mihiro up almost from the get-go before the bell rang just to get that Ironman heavy metalweight belt. About midway through this match, Shino ends up conferring with Fumirin, who is the referee for this. Of course, it's Fumirin. Fumirin seems to be like magnetically attracted to this belt for some reason. She is always around this Ironman belt. But Shino kind of confers with Fumirin just over some of the rules of the belt, and for some reason decides to challenge Mihiro to a game of rock, paper, scissors. We've seen rock, paper, scissors make quite a few appearances throughout TJPW recently. This was the version of rock, paper, scissors where you play rock, paper, scissors, and then you have to kind of point and look away from the direction that the person is pointing. Shino does win the game, but she couldn't win the finger pointing part of it. And Mihiro ends up just quickly taking advantage of that, hits a sidewalk slam, and then apologizes for ruining Shino's game of rock, paper, scissors. This one was a shorter one. Mihiro does win this and retain her Ironman title with a spinebuster at 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Surprisingly good for the amount of time, only 4 minutes of this match. I thought this was a lot of fun. Of course, the Ironman title, always a lot of fun. Mihiro's been doing some excellent work with that, so surprisingly good match for the amount of time they received. Up next was Kaya Toribami taking on Toga. These two have met before just recently at the latest Inspiration show, where Kaya picked up the victory there. Again, this was a fairly even match, but Kaya did seem to get in just a little bit more offense than Toga, which basically mirrors the match they had at Inspiration. Toga does briefly make a comeback, but during her comeback, the bell rings and we hit a time limit draw at 7 minutes even. I thought the draw was pretty interesting here, only because they didn't seem to be close to hitting a finisher or a pinfall. A lot of times with time limit draws, you'll see the competitors like just narrowly missing a pinfall, and these two were like mid-match when the time limit happened. So not making a comment either way, just an interesting difference to how you arrive at a time limit draw. But it kind of felt like the beginning of somewhat of a longer match. Both of these competitors, really good competitors, growing quite a bit over the last few years. So a nice little 7-minute exhibition, I guess, if you will. Following that, we had Hyper Misao taking on Ren Kanatsu in another first time singles match. Now, prior to this, in our preview of this card, I kind of thought that we might get a stipulation here with this match. We didn't, but instead we got some ventriloquism. So that's a fair trade off, in my opinion. Hyper Misao basically takes the mic before this match. She ends up accusing Ren and her little sheep plushie of colluding and cheating in all of their matches. So Misao steals the sheep and the sheep ends up speaking. Surprisingly sounded like Hyper Misao with a high-pitched voice, but the sheep ends up speaking and admitting to this plot that the sheep and Ren cheat in all of their matches. So naturally you can get a sense for exactly how this match went. Ren ends up chasing Misao around for the sheep. Misao is holding it hostage. They run all throughout the ring, all around the venue. Misao ends up winning this match via submission with the chicken wing face lock in 5 minutes and 25 seconds. Ren does get her sheep back afterwards, but basically up to this point we've seen quite a lot of comedy, and a little bit more comedy than I might have thought that we would get. But just an interesting note, there's definitely been more comedy than kind of serious matches up to this point in this card. Up next, a singles match between Mifu Ishida and Shoko Nakajima, a first time meeting between these two competitors as well. Now, I don't know what their original game plan was for this, and I think they might have made a little bit of an improv or a pivot because upon Shoko's entrance, as she was making her way to the ring, she actually tripped over the ringside mat and just kind of fell right on her face. And number one, she wasn't hurt, which was great to see, but number two, the veteran competitor that Shoko Nakajima is, she just kind of took that and ran with it. She ended up being so upset that she fell over. She kept looking at the spot in the mat. Eventually, Chika Nanase was out there seconding, and she ended up taking all of this out on Chika. Something about Chika being misplaced or at the wrong place at the wrong time or something like that. All of this is happening as Mifu Ishida makes her entrance for this match. And as they go to get things started, Mifu actually shows a little bit of a fire. She surprise attacks during the handshakes, which is not something that Mifu is typically known for. One of the big, really cool spots of this match was Mifu was able to counter the 619, or maybe dodge the 619 is a better word, but Mifu was able to dodge the 619 with this like Matrix style kind of bending backwards maneuver. Of course, Mifu, the cheerleader, very flexible, very bendy. Just a really neat moment that stood out. It was probably the biggest like move up to this point of this entire show. Mifu does some cheering on the outside of the ring, of course, and Shoko is just still so upset at everything that's transpired since she's walked through the curtain that she decides to steal Mifu's pom-poms and she just chucks them into the crowd. Mifu, of course, very upset with that. The crowd very upset with that. They start booing Shoko. We get a few more minutes of some bendy wrestling between these two competitors, and then Shoko ultimately picks up the victory with a Northern Lights suplex at 5 minutes and 44 seconds. In a nice touch after this match, Shoko is exiting from the ring and she very cautiously avoids the spot that she slipped. She moves like very far around it, goes well out of her way, which I thought was kind of funny. This likely wasn't intended to be more of like a comedy adjacent match, but I do imagine they pivoted here, which I mean, that all the kudos to both of these competitors, Shoko especially for just being able to improv on the fly, taking what would be like a negative, tripping and falling over, an embarrassing moment, and then just running with it and just making something out of it. That's truly a veteran competitor right there. And then, like I mentioned, really the first memorable maneuver on that show, that 619 Matrix style dodge, was really awesome to see that one. We then saw Arisu Endo take on Pom Harajuku, and surprisingly, these two have met twice before, and Pom has won both of those contests, which is really interesting to me. I guess it has to do with Pom just being from an earlier class or an earlier generation. But Pom technically leads this head to head 2-0. Pom enters here dressed up as a reindeer, so Pom also in the holiday spirit, in the festive mood. At the beginning of this, the referee, I'm not sure who this referee was. It was a male referee. It wasn't Kiso. Obviously, it wasn't Fumarin. I think it was just somebody coming in to help out. But when Pom typically does her onegaishimasu scream, this referee like basically almost took her head off. He like took a swing at her or something, and Pom ducked it, and obviously it was meant for comedy. It was a little bit of like a weird comedy play though. It seemed like this referee was like very aggressive. I don't know what they were going for outside of something funny, and maybe it landed for some people. It just felt a little odd to me is all. Pom starts this one out making Arisu wear like this Christmas shawl that she brought to the ring. And then she ends up like putting Arisu on this like push cart, this like dolly cart, and then just like pushing her around ringside at really high speeds before she just dumps her out near the ring post. I don't know why Arisu went along with this, because towards the end of this ride that she was on, she was just like crying and wailing. She was so afraid. Palm eventually gets Risu back into the ring and then somehow convinces her to get into this sack. Like, yes, this is really happening. This is a lot of Christmas spirit, I guess, in this match. But somehow she convinces Arisu to sit inside of this sack, and then Palm like pulls this sack up so Arisu is like trapped inside of the sack. I don't know what she thought was going to happen. But that leads us to the Den Den Daiko, the drum maneuver from Palm, which creative way to get to that move. Uda is at ringside here, and Uda basically helps Arisu break free from this sack, from the Christmas shawl, basically get free from all of this nonsense. Arisu then proceeds to just beat the crap out of Palm for the next few minutes until she locks in the camel clutch, wins this match at 6 minutes and 10 seconds. Again, another match, mostly comedy in this one, but still a fun time. Next, we had Mizuki taking on Rika Tatsumi in probably the match that I was most looking forward to going into this. The head-to-head here is, of course, 1-0 in favor of Mizuki, who just picked up a victory over Rika at Grand Princess 2-5. That was a Princess of Princess title match. Really terrific match. Highly recommend you guys go seek that one out if you haven't seen that one. And going up against the White Dragon, Mizuki naturally decides to wear her all black gear. So we have the White Dragon taking on Shadow Mizuki here. Mizuki, curiously enough, asks for a handshake to start this one off, but of course it's a ruse. Mizuki kicks her right in the stomach. They wrestle for like a brief moment, and then for some reason, Mizuki asks for another handshake. I guess maybe she's apologizing and she's saying, no, let's do this for real. Rika obliges, but it's another ruse. Mizuki got her again. Fool me once, right? But kicks her in the stomach once again. Rika does eventually get the advantage here for a brief while. She works on Mizuki's knee quite a bit in this match, and she was actually in control for what I would say is the majority of this match. Rika was. Towards the end of this one, they really ramp it up. These two start moving like at a mile a minute. Both of these women, so good. I don't need to tell you that. But they really were only giving like a taste of what they could do, scratching the surface here in this match. Unsurprisingly, this one goes to a time limit draw at the 7-minute mark. Afterwards, Mizuki goes in for one final handshake, a nice spirit of competitive spirit, a nice good gesture for this time limit draw. But it's another ruse. Fool me once, fool me twice. It's certainly shame on Rika at this point. She got 3 kicks to the gut trying to handshake Mizuki. But you know what? Also, shame on Mizuki for taking advantage of Rika's love for her and kind of drawing her in with these handshakes. But to be honest with you, I can't believe this is only the second time that these two have met in the history of TJPW. It's crazy. Both of them are so good, and like I mentioned, you really only got a little taste here, a little appetizer of what these two could do. Highly encourage you all to check out the Grand Princess 2-5 match between these two competitors. Hopefully we'll get another singles match between these two sometime soon. In the semifinal, Miyu Yamashita took on Yuki Arai, another set of competitors here who have met twice before, Yamashita winning both of those matches. And this one, a little bizarre, to say the least. They start off in a slugfest, back and forth forearms from both competitors. Arai hits a few big boots, and then Miyu, in quick succession, hits 3 skull kicks and wins this match in 1 minute and 5 seconds. Very short, very quick, very intense match. Nothing happens immediately after. They both just kind of retreat to the back, but they do have backstage comments from both competitors. Miyu says that Arai still has a long way to go, so some very interesting comments there. And then Arai basically said that she is devastated by this loss, that this is far short of her expectations for what she thought this match would be. But that being said, she didn't really look too upset while delivering these comments. She seemed to, in fact, she was smiling a little bit while she was delivering these. So, interesting match, short match, interesting comments backstage. There is obviously something happening here. I don't see why you would decide to squash Arai, why you would do it in the semifinal of this show. It's also worth noting this is the only match besides the main event with all of the champions and the challengers that had backstage comments. And really, in those comments that I just mentioned, it's not like anybody either of them said anything of like really great importance. So there's something here. I think they're obviously setting something up. I don't know if they're setting up, say, like Yamashita for a special singles match at Grand Princess, although I don't think you really need to build her up in any way. Yamashita is such a plug and play competitor. Maybe they're trying to come up with like Yuki Arai redemption story. Maybe that's going to be the special singles match for Grand Princess, and we'll see Arai kind of overcoming Miyu. Maybe that's the story, but there is certainly something here. This match just seemed, while it was refreshingly different than everything else, it just seemed a little out of place for the quality of both of these competitors for it to be so short. Both of them are in the Rumble at the year-end party, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then they both of them are on the Itanyon show, but they're in separate tag matches. So if they're going to be crossing paths in the near future, it might be in this Rumble upcoming. And that brings us to the main event, a 6-woman tag team match. Miyu Watanabe, your Princess of Princess champion, teaming with Uber Eats, the Princess Tag Champions, taking on all 3 challengers, Suzume and the team of Prism Greed. This will be the 4th and the final Princess of Princess preview match. There will not be one at the year-end party. Miyu is leading 2-1 in those preview matches, although neither competitor has a direct pinfall on each other, and in fact, one of those they weren't involved at all. But that being said, this is also our first preview for the Princess Tag Team title match. Watanabe and Suzume start us out, and Miyu gets the quick advantage here, overpowering Suzume almost right from the get-go. Wakana Uehara and Haru tag in, and then we start to see the 2 tag teams get a little bit of time squaring off against one another. No tag team really taking the advantage, though. Suzume and Watanabe come back in, but this time Suzume gets the advantage with all of her speed. We're really not seeing any mingling of the Princess of Princess duo and then the Princess tag teams. They're kind of keeping within their own lanes. Might have been cool to see like Watanabe and Aino mix it up once again, but we didn't get any of that. They stayed in their lanes. Of course, this being a 6-woman tag team match, everything breaks down. All 6 of them start fighting one another. In an incredible maneuver, Suzume hits a facebuster from the ring apron all the way down onto the floor for Miyu. That was incredible to see. Haru and Aino then bust out a double team maneuver. I think this is the first kind of double team maneuver that they had. And that leads to Kamiyu getting pinned by Yuki Aino at 15 minutes and 29 seconds. So a nice long main event here for our preview match at this Merry Christmas show. After this is over, the challengers close out the show discussing their upcoming matches on January 4th. Haru actually has a singles match at the year-end party against Wakana, so we'll get like somewhat of a second preview match. So Haru spoke briefly about that, how she's looking forward to that match as well. Backstage, Prism Greed confirmed the name of their new double team maneuver. This was basically like an elevated Venus DDT is the best way I could describe it. So like Aino had Kamiyu in the Venus DDT. Kamiyu's legs were then placed up on top of Haru's shoulders, and as Aino hit the Venus DDT on the top half of Kamiyu, Haru kind of hit this like cyclone style like elbow drop, this like twisting elbow drop on her leg. So that was what the double team maneuver looked like. They are calling it the updraft overdrive. Pretty cool name in my opinion. Watanabe doesn't admit to being stabbed in this match. She's been doing this bit about talking about being stabbed, and she means like being stung by a bee, which has been kind of fun. Watanabe always has some like fun wordplay that she does, but she doesn't admit to being stabbed in this match, stung by this bee, but instead she says it was likely like a mosquito that bit her. It just felt like a little bit of a nuisance, so she's not too worried about that. I think that Watanabe is playing this a little too cautiously. I think she should take Suzume a little bit more seriously, but Uber Eats also gave some comments as well. They said they're not really upset with the loss. In fact, Kamiyu was questioning why Wakana didn't help her when she was receiving this updraft overdrive move, but ultimately they resolved to just kind of let it go. They say, you know what, we're going to go viral at Itanyon. We're Uber Eats. We got this one in the bag. So a lot of confidence from both champions, the tag champions and the Princess of Princess champion. I think both of these champions could maybe benefit from taking their competition a little bit more seriously. But overall, pretty good show. I thought there was more comedy on here than I would have thought, given the number of singles matches. But you know what? At the end of the day, this is a Christmas show, likely meant to be more fun, more lighthearted, celebratory for the holidays. in my opinion, the match of the night here is most certainly this 6-woman tag at the end. Definitely go out of your way to watch that, especially as a bit of a lead up into the Itaewon show on January 4th. Before we jump into our preview of the year-end party, I wanted to take just a couple of minutes, do something a little bit fun as we round out 2025. Can't believe that 2025 is already over. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what I think the best matches are from TJPW from 2025, and then also some of the biggest moments as well. So starting off with matches, what I've done is basically just taken a short list of 5, and I'll run through these pretty quickly. You don't have to go into too much detail, but in reverse order, I have number 5 as Miyu Watanabe taking on Arisu Endo in the Tokyo Princess Cup Finals. Heck of an end to the tournament this year. Arisu had that Cinderella run, beating Yamashita. I think she beat Aino as well, I want to say. I might be misremembering that, but this finals was certainly like the immaculate, what is it, the immovable object meets the immaculate force. I totally messed that one up, whatever that is. But it was truly a wonderful match in the finals. Miyu, of course, ending Arisu's Cinderella run. Miyu goes on to challenge Mizuki, wins her second Princess of Princess title, but that's kind of where all of that began. And one heck of a singles match. Would be interesting to see those competitors run it back, especially now that they are the top 2 champions in TJPW. At number 4, I have the Shinkansen 8-woman tag team match from Shinkansen Joshi Pro Wrestling. This was TJPW's street wrestling match from this past year, which took place all within the confines of a bullet train. This was just a blast. There's no other way to say how fun this was to watch, between the Mount Fuji exhibition where all the match just basically stopped and everybody was looking at Mount Fuji for like 2 minutes, to the creativity that these ladies are able to do in a tiny, tiny aisleway of a train. It seemed like everybody had a good time. Raku in particular, kind of realizing this dream of wrestling on a train had to be a lot of fun, but a fun experience, very creative, and ultimately a very great match. Third on the list, I have Kiraku Kiyome taking on 1-2 Million from Grand Princess 2-5, and this was the match where Hyper Misao and Shoko won their first Princess Tag Team championships as a duo. I thought this match was a lot of fun. If you recall, this is the match where Hyper Misao loses her mask or takes her mask off halfway through and then just keeps going. I thought this had a lot of comedy, a lot of hard-hitting action, some great story to it, and then a very feel-good moment at the end with Kiraku Kiyome winning their first titles as a tag team. So they held those for quite a while throughout the calendar year. So that's number 3 on my list. Number 2 on my list actually comes from the America Tour, TJPW Live in Dallas, the match between Miyu Watanabe and Shoko Nakajima. And this is a little bit of a taste of Tej for the American fans, and this is timely considering we have the Texas Tour just announced today as well, but a really great undercard match on this show for the final night of the Texas Tour. And then number 1, what I think is the best TJPW match of 2025, Wrestle Princess 6, Miyu Watanabe taking on Mizuki for the Princess of Princess title. Of course, we know that Miyu wins her second Princess of Princess title in an absolutely excellent main event here that capped off the final big arena show of the year. I know that Mizuki and Miyu met a few times. They met at the Itaewon 2025 show. They met here at Wrestle Princess. But to me, this is the match that takes the edge. I'm sure you guys have your own favorites. I would love to hear them. Send me a note on social media, email me. Would love to know if you guys feel that I missed a match here, if you have a different favorite, how you'd rank them. I think overall, though, TJPW had one heck of a year in terms of match quality, and these 5 are really just a taste of the matches that we had. Hopefully, leading into 2026, we already have some great matches announced that we can even top some of these 2025 matches. Something else I want to touch on just a little bit are some of the biggest moments. So not necessarily matches, but just these could be storylines. These could be just things that went down, occurrences, what have you. I have kind of a mixed bag here. Again, starting from number 5. Number 5, I have the Shinkansen Pro Wrestling. Basically just the entire show as a whole. I thought this was such a memorable moment this year. It was a lot of fun, coming off the heels of the aquarium and the theme park and all of the other like street wrestling that TJPW has done. This one was really ramped up. I believe that it was DDT had done something like this, so TJPW was able to do a similar thing, but I thought that was just such a memorable moment of the year. It took place all the way back in February. I wouldn't be surprised if we get some sort of a street wrestling announcement in the near future, but that's number 5 on my list for moments just wrestling on that bullet train. Number 4 moment of the year, I have down Moka Miyamoto. Moka Miyamoto's illness and then sudden retirement. This was a huge story throughout the year. Moka had a pretty solid match against Arisu back at Summer Sun Princess 2-5, where she won the International Princess title. Would love to know what was in the cards for Moka. Unfortunately, we will never know because she did vacate that International Princess title shortly after due to illness. And then, as we know, just recently, a few weeks ago, ended up retiring from wrestling. Again, wish all the best to Moka Miyamoto. I hope that she's well and healthy and happy. But certainly, this was such a moment from the International Princess victory all the way through the retirement this year for Moka. So, all the best to Moka Miyamoto once again. Number 3 moment of the year, I have down Maki Ito and Maki Ito's contract expiring from TJPW. Now, there wasn't a lot of fuss made about this when it happened. Of course, it was covered in the news, but I mean fuss in terms of like negativity. This seemed to be a pretty amicable parting. But still a surprising one nonetheless. Maki Ito was so ingrained in the culture of TJPW with her singing and her dancing, and of course her language and her foul mouth was such a nice contrast to a lot of the women in TJPW. But it was surprising how it kind of came out of nowhere, and Maki's been very successful since in wrestling in America quite a bit, wrestling in Europe, but certainly a big moment of 2025, one of the most, I don't know if iconic's the right word, perhaps, but one of the most well-known competitors in TJPW, leaving the promotion, or I guess the contract expired rather. I hope that we do see Maki once again. Maybe she'll get announced for Grand Princess. That would be kind of fun. Or maybe sometime in 2026 we'll see Maki once again. But all the best to Maki too. She's been doing some great things in America. So keep following on with Maki even though she's no longer with TJPW. The second biggest moment I have of the year, Sayuri Namba graduating from TJPW. This was huge. I'm a huge fan of Sayuri Namba. I'm sure many of you are. She was such a central force of what TJPW was. She was like really etched into the fabric of TJPW, and hearing her ring announcing all the time, seeing her opening up the shows, it was almost as if she was made for TJPW. She just had the authenticity, the style, she had the mannerisms down, the fun and the silliness. She just embodied all of that. And that's, I'm not taking anything away from Rise Shirai. I think Rise Shirai has been doing an excellent job as the new ring announcer, but Namba was the ring announcer for so many years and was almost synonymous with TJPW, and it was a huge, huge loss for them to lose Sayuri Namba to have her graduate. Again, nothing against Rise Shirai, but this is my number 2 big moment of 2025 for TJPW. And number 1, this might be surprising to some of you, maybe not, but number 1 is the TJPW Texas Tour of 2025 being an absolutely huge success. And again, very timely because they just announced an even bigger Texas Tour for 2026. So the Texas Tour is my number 1 for a few reasons. I think that it continued TJPW's expansion abroad outside of Japan. That was a huge moment. The amount of attendance that they drew at that Dallas show, about 2,400 people, which, remember, that is the highest attendance of any TJPW show ever. That includes all of their Japan shows, their Corcoran Hall shows, their arena shows. 2,400 people attended a TJPW show outside of Japan. I can underscore how big of a deal that is. Obviously, it's leading into 2026. Maybe we'll see even bigger crowds aligned with South by Southwest. But my number 1 biggest moment of 2025 for TJPW is the success of the Texas Tour. Let me know what you guys think of the top moments as well. Do you have a favorite moment from this year, a surprising moment, a shocking moment? Would love to hear all of that. Send me a message on social media. You can email as well. All of the details will be in the show notes, of course, at the end of the show as well. But would love to hear your guys' favorite matches, best matches, biggest moments, what have you, as we round out 2025. Now, we do also have one show to preview, and that is Year End Party 2-5. This is our final stop, not only of 2025, but our final stop on the road to the January 4th Itinyon show, TJPW 2-6. Year-End Party 2-5 will take place on Saturday, December 27th from the Shinjuku Face. This will be live on Wrestle Universe, and it should be at a pretty palatable time for us here in the States. It will be 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific, so we should be able to watch this one if you're looking for some wrestling during your holiday week. Of course, there's going to be plenty of wrestling in the week that follows between Stardom and Wrestle Kingdom and Tej and Marigold and Marvelous and you name it. But Saturday, 12/27 is when this one kicks off, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Here is the card in no particular order, only a 6-match card. We'll have a singles match, Suzume taking on Ren Kanatsu. Likely Suzume's final tune-up before that Itanyon show. I would assume Suzume picks up the victory there. We'll have another singles match between Wakana Uehara and Haru Kazushiro. This will be our second Princess Tag Team preview match. Of course, we just saw that Prism Greed picked up a victory. They lead those previews 1-0. Aino pinning Kamiyu. Interesting that we'll get like a singles match as a preview. TJPW does that from time to time, but this one should actually be quite good, I think. We'll have a third singles match as well. Yuki Aino, so Haru's tag team partner, will be taking on Chika Nanase. We're going to see a tag team match as well. Rika Tatsumi will tag with Toga, and they will take on the team of Mihiro Kiryu and Kakeru Sakaguchi. So Kakeru is coming back into TJPW once again to team with her twin, Mihiro. Of course, Mihiro and Rika going to continue their shenanigans, their nonsense, if you will, over the DDT Iron Man title. Assuming Mihiro is able to hold it through Christmas, we'll have to keep our eyes on X for that, but I'm assuming that the DDT Iron Man title will have some sort of a factor here at play. And then we will also have, in what I think might be the main event, although I'm not too sure based on this card, we're going to get a Rumble. And I love me a good Rumble. Now, this Rumble has a title to it, and it is quite the mouthful, so bear with me here. This Princess Rumble 2025 is called Here's Hoping Next Year Brings Lots of Happy and Fun Things Too. 20 participant Princess Rumble 2025. That's the full title of the Rumble. For the sake of this, I'm just going to call it the Princess Rumble 2025. This is the second annual Princess Rumble, so they did do this one last year to start this tradition, and quite the roster of competitors in this Rumble. We know 18 of the 20, Miyu Watanabe, Yuki Kamifuku, Arisu Endo, Shoko Nakajima, Miyu Yamashita, Kaya Toribami, Mizuki, Yuki Arai, Hyper Misao, Raku, Pam Harajuku, Himawari, Shino Suzuki, Mifu Ishida, Kira Summer, and Uda Takami are going to be the TJPW competitors that are in it. We will also have Max the Impaler in this match, throwing their hat into the ring against all of these ladies. And then Ram Kaichou as well will be making her return into TJPW. It's going to get interesting because Ram will be in there with Raku. Raku will be in there with Palm. Palm will be in there with Max. Max will be in there with Raku. Interesting. There's going to be some quarrels, to say the least, between all of these competitors. Beyond those 18, there are actually 2 mystery competitors as well, X and then XX. I don't know if we will know these competitors in advance. Sometimes TJPW will announce like one the day before or maybe one on Christmas or whatever. Last year they announced I think one of them, and we only went into the show with one mystery competitor. As of my recording this on the morning of Christmas Eve, we do not know what these 2 competitors are, but they might get announced ahead of time. Truly, I have no idea who they might be. Maybe Aniki could be one of them. Maybe J-Rod if she's there early for the 1-4 show. The world of possibilities is truly open. Maybe Mirai, maybe Yuka Sakazaki. Who knows? I might be getting well ahead of myself. It could be someone of much less stakes. It could be like Kuroshio Tokyo Japan or somebody too. Like I think the door is wide open for who this could be, but I'm really, really excited to find out who it could be. Nothing is on the line here. This is just simply a bragging rights rumble, but rumbles are always fun. I love a good rumble, so this card will be a lot of fun as we round up in the new year, or rather the 2025 as we run into the new year. This year-end party 2-5 show, December 27th, 9 p.m. Pacific time. Looking forward to watching this one. We don't have too much in the world of graduates and excursions, just a few quick hitters here. In terms of graduates, Naoka Kuda, as we mentioned last week, has her YouTube channel, and she actually uploaded a 2-part chat with Himika, which Himika most well known from her time in Stardom. I believe before that she was in Actress Girls. Himika actually has like one TJPW match to her name, and it was on Now Kakuta's produce show back in 2024, where she was a special guest referee and then somehow won that match. That was a little bit of a fun show, a fun match. But a nice chat between Now and Himika. I believe they're friends in real life. Obviously, they keep in touch. But if you're curious about what's been going on with Himika since she left Stardom and graduated or retired or what have you, check out this chat that she did with Now Kakuta. And then in terms of excursions, just a bit of a reminder here on the December 27th Ganbare Pro show before sunrise, Mihiro Kiryu is wrestling in a mixed 4-person tag match. She is teaming up with Ken Oka. Also in that match, Yuna Manase, Gabai is going to be in there, so that's going to be crazy. I guess Mihiro also pulling double duty on the 27th. And then on December 29th, the Actress Girls Korakuen Hall show, Himawari is going to be making her return into Actress Girls, so pencil those two down on the calendar as well if you want to see Mihiro and Himawari wrestle outside of TJPW. And that will bring us to the end of this holiday edition, our final 2025 podcast of the year. With all the food and just junk food I've been eating, I definitely need to get some cold spray and some ice packs. I don't know if that works quite that way, but whatever. On next week's show, we'll review the year-end party. We'll also preview the Itinyon January 4th show. I can't believe that's here already. I'm so excited. I also am going to have some predictions for 2026 I'm going to drop on you guys next week, so we'll see how that ends up going. I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss any future episodes. You can follow us on social media at Tokyo Joshi Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and X. You can also email us tokyojoshipod@gmail.com. But above all else, remember to keep your hearts burning, stay magical, my friends, and we'll see you next week on the Tokyo Joshi Pod. Happy New Year!